In this video, we're going to discuss SAT math questions that people usually get wrong. These are either hard or have some kind of trick. So hopefully with this video, you'll learn to identify those tricks and make sure you don't fall into the same traps. So let's get right into it. The first question is this one. It says, Alma bought a laptop at a store that gave a 20% discount of its original price. The total amount she paid was P dollars, including an 8% sales tax on the discounted price. Which of the following represents the original price of the computer P? So in this question, the trick is to really understand what is being asked. So basically, when it says original price, this means this is the price before discount, right? So it's 20% off its original price, right? So it's not the total amount she paid, or it's not the amount after tax or before tax, it's the original price of the computer, right? So that's what the thing here is, that make sure you understand what is being asked. So let's go and solve this question. So we know that the price she paid is the price after discount, right, times 1.08, right, because there was an 8% sales tax on it. So whatever the price after discount was times 1.08, that's what she paid, which is P. Now, the price after discount is 80% of the original price, right? Because the original price less 20% discount is what the price after discount is. So instead of price after discount, we can simply write the original price O, right, times 0.8, which is 80%. So this is equal to the price after discount, and then we copy over the 1.08. So this is basically the price that she paid, right? But now we need to solve for the original price in terms of P. So we simply go original price O, and maybe we can write OP here to not confuse it with 0. So original price is basically P divided by 0.8 times 1.08, and that is indeed one of the options, which is over here D. So this is the correct answer. So the pitfall here is to make sure you don't just write this one, right, because it's easy to see this and see it matches, but note that you're being asked for the original price, so you need to solve for the original price, and that's why the answer is D. All right, so here's the next one. Basically, we have a triangle ABC where the measure of angle B is 90, BC is 16, AC is 20. DEF is similar to ABC, where DEF correspond to vertices ABC respectively, and each side of the triangle is 1/3 the length of the corresponding side of the triangle in ABC. So what is the value of sine F? So over here, you see there's like so many numbers, so many letters, right? So the best way to tackle this kind of question is just to draw it out and make sure you pay attention to, what is being given in the question. So let's just try to draw it out over here. So we have ABC where the B is 90 degrees, right? So over here, we're saying this is 90 degrees. So this is B, A, and C. Now they say BC is 16 and AC is 20, right? And we have another triangle DEF. So it's similar to this. So we have DEF, right? Because it says A corresponds to D, B to E, C to F, respectively. And each side of DEF is 1/3 the length of this corresponding side in ABC. So each side over here is 1/3 of this. Now they want you to get the value of sine F, right, over here. Now note that sine is opposite, like the opposite side over the hypotenuse side, right? So when you divide this, it doesn't really matter whether you're using this triangle or this triangle, right? Because sine F and sine C would be equal, right? Because it's just opposite over hypotenuse, and it says these two triangles are similar. So you can just completely ignore this one and just actually solve for sine C, right? Now, in order to solve for sine C, you first need to solve for the opposite side. Or you could also use the identity like sine squared plus cos squared equals 1, because we already know cosine is 16 over 20, that's 0.8. So whatever is convenient for you, right? So in this, or if you solve for AB, you can say it's 20 squared minus 16 squared square root, right? That will be AB, right? Because it's basically hypotenuse minus adjacent from the Pythagorean theorem, right? So we know that 20 squared is 400, 16 squared is 256, and this is basically going to be 144. So square root of 144, AB is equal to 12, right? So that will be 12 over here. So in fact, this is easier because this is a perfect Pythagorean triple, right? So in this case, in order to solve for sine C, it's basically going to be 12 over 20, or 0.6. So that's the answer over here in this SAT question. So the key thing here is to make sure that you understand the question correctly and map each part of information step by step, right? And eventually you realize that this whole other triangle is irrelevant. All right, next we have this question where if 3x minus y is 12, then what is the value of 8 to the x over 2 to the y, right? So this kind of question looks very hard, but whenever you have exponents and things like that, you should try to make the exponent base the same, right? So if we start taking a stab at this, 8 to the x over 2 to the y. Now we know that 8 is 2 cube, right? So 8 is 2 cube and raised to the power of x over 2 to the y. Now we know that when powers are raised to each other, we can just multiply them. So this becomes 2 to the 3x over 2 to the y. And then we know when powers are like this in the numerator and the denominator, we can simply do 2 to the 3x minus y. Now, conveniently, 3x minus y is given in the question as 12. So it's simply 2 to the 12, and that is over here letter A, right? So the key thing is this in this question is don't get overwhelmed by this. Like just, start by trying to simplify this equation. If there is a base that is powers of each other, make them the common base, see what happens, and then it's just going to reveal itself that 3x minus y is 12, right? So don't try to dwell too much on this one. Like start from what is being asked, simplify it, and then you'll see how this is useful. Okay, next, sometimes you can see a question like this and get overwhelmed. There's a big chart, there's so many words, but again, SAT questions are known to be solvable within 1 minute, 2 minutes. So, don't get overwhelmed, just read it, and it's probably not as hard as you think, right? So it says the incomplete table summarizes the number of left-handed students and right-handed students by gender for the 8th grade. And there are 5 times as many right-handed female students as there are left-handed female students, right? So we can just start like filling the table over here. So if this is like, let's say X, it says there are 5 times as many right-handed female students as there are left-handed female students. So if this is X, this is going to be 5X, right? So read the sentence step by step and use the information step by step, right? And then it says, and there are 9 times as many right-handed male as there are left-handed male. So if the left-handed male is Y, they're saying there are 9Y right-handed male, right? And if there's a total of 18 left-handed students, which is over here, and 122 right-handed students, which is over here, which of the following is closest to the probability that a right-handed student selected at random is female, right? So in order to solve this question, we should first figure out what are the actual numbers here so we can easily figure out the probability, right? So we know that x plus y is 18 and 5x plus 9y is equal to 122, right? So we just need to solve for x and y. So over here, we can say that x equals 18 minus y, right, from this one. And we can substitute this over here. So we can say 5 times 18 minus y is equal to, sorry, plus 9y is equal to 122. So if you multiply this, 18 times 5 is 90, minus 5y plus 9y equals 122. So this is 9y minus 5y, that's 4y, and then we can minus 90 on both sides, so this becomes 32. And so you know that y is 8, right? So if y is 8, x is 18 minus y, so x is 10, right? So you can go back to this table. Now this is 5x, so this is 50, right? And this is 9y, so this is 9 times 8, that's 72, right? So with this, now you say that there is, what's the probability that a right-handed student selected at random is female? So if you select a random student from this one, what's the probability that they're female, right? So it's basically going to be 50 over 122. And if you do the math here, this is approximately 5 over 12, which is approximately 40%. So that's this one, A over here. So the key takeaway here is don't get overwhelmed. Just take everything step by step and you'll figure out the final answer. All right, next we have this circle question. We have ABC inscribed in a circle with center O and the diameter is AC. And if AB equals AO, so that means these two are equal. What is the degree measure of angle ABO, which is this one over here, right? So if the question involves a circle, the key is usually figure out the radius, right? So in this case, the radius is this one or this one, and we know that any point from the center to the edge of the circle is equal to the radius. So that means this BO would also be equal to this AO, because these are all along the radius, right? And we are given that this AB is equal to AO. That means all three sides of the circle are equal. Now, if all three sides of the circle are equal, that means each angle is 60 degrees, right? Because they have to be equally distributed. So the answer is D, 60 degrees. So the takeaway here is when you're given a circle, make sure you find the radius and everything becomes easy from there, because the idea is that any point from the center to the edge of the circle is equal to the radius. So here is another circle question. So there's two semicircles, and if both have centers R and S, and RS equals 12, what's the total length of the darkened curve? So we'll apply the tip again previously. So we know that, let's label this smaller circle's radius S and the bigger circle radius B, right? So we're given that RS equals 12. So that means we know that S plus B is equal to 12, right? Because that's the radiuses of both circles, right? Now, we need to know the length of the darkened curve. So basically, we need to know the circumference of the first circle or first semicircle and the circumference of the second semicircle. So we know that the circumference of a circle is 2 pi r, right? And if it's a semicircle, that means it's just half, so it's just going to be pi r. So the circumference of the first semicircle is going to be pi times its radius, which is S, right? Now the circumference of the second semicircle is going to be pi times its radius, which we labeled as B, right? So this is the total length of this curve, right? Which is the sum of the two semicircle circumferences. Now this one we can simply factor out pi and say S plus B, and it's given to us that RS is 12 or S plus B is 12, so it's simply 12 pi, which is our answer here, C. So again, the tip here is the same thing. Like, if it's a circle, figure out the radius, go with the flow, just do the math, and then you'll see how the information in the given kind of helps you solve the equation at the end. All right, so this is our next question, where a football team has jerseys numbered from 10 to 30. Everyone gets a jersey and there are 3 left over. How many people are there on the football team? So if we know that there are 3 left over, we first need to figure out how many jerseys there were from 10 to 30, right? And you might think that there are just 20 jerseys, but this is not correct, because if the jerseys are numbered from 10 to 30, that means that 10 is already one jersey, 11 is two jerseys, and so on. If you get to 20, you'll notice that this is 11 jerseys at 20, right? So whenever the two numbers, 10 and 30, when both are included, the number of elements between these two numbers is the subtraction plus 1. So it's basically 30 minus 10 plus 1. So there's a total of 21 jerseys, right? Because 10 itself is also included and 30 is also included. So remember this tip. And so if there are 3 left over, that means out of 21, 3 are left over. That means there are 18 people on the football team, and this is the answer. So here's another similar one. It takes 12 minutes to saw a log into 4 pieces. Given that each cut takes an equal amount of time, how many minutes would it take to saw the log into 6 pieces instead, right? So remember, if you are breaking a log into 4 pieces, that's going to be 3 cuts, right? Because if you imagine a log, if you want to break it to 4 pieces, you cut 1, 2, and 3. So it's 3 cuts to make 4 pieces. So it's not 4, just because it's 4 pieces, it's not 4 cuts, it's 3 cuts, right? So it takes 12 minutes for 3 cuts. So that means 1 cut basically takes 4 minutes, right? Because 3 cuts take 12 minutes. So now we're being asked how many minutes would it take for 6 pieces. So if you think about 6 pieces, it's basically going to be 5 cuts, right? So like you can think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you cut it 5 times, you're left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces, right? So for 5 cuts, it's going to be 5 times 4 minutes, because each cut is 4 minutes. So that's going to be 20 minutes total. So this is the answer, 20 minutes. Next, we have a similar question where a 50-foot ladder has rings spaced 1 foot apart, starting 1 foot from each end. So how many rings are there on the ladder? So this is another one of those tricky ones where you might just think it's 50, but it's best to draw it out, right? So let's say there's a 50-foot ladder. So here's your ladder, right? So this is 0 to 50, and it has rings spaced 1 foot apart, starting 1 foot from each end. So the first ring over here is over here at foot 1, and the second ring is over here at foot 49, right? Now, each of these has rings 1 foot apart. So remember what we said. So it's basically from foot number 49 to foot number 1, right? So remember what we said, when there are 2 numbers and both are inclusive, it's the subtraction of those plus 1, right? So it's going to be 49, which is the first on the top, minus 1, which is the second on the, the last at the bottom, and plus 1 because both of them are included, similar to the jersey example we had earlier. So this one is simply 49. That's the answer. All right, here's another similar one. We have a straight fence is 150 feet long, and fence posts are spaced 5 feet apart with 1 post at each end of the fence. So if you think of this as 0 and at 150, in this case we actually have a post at each end, and then every 5 intervals there is a post, right? So something like that. Now in this case, you can see that since each end has a post, it's going to be basically 150 divided by 5, that's 30, right? But plus 1, because there's 1 at the end. So if you do 150 divided by 5, you basically get like 1 fence over here, 2 fences over here, because this is 5 divided by 5, 1, 10 divided by 5, 2, right? And so on. And so 150 divided by 5 would be 30, right? So from here to here you have 30 posts, but then you also have 1 at the beginning. So total you have 31. So this is the answer. So this shows how drawing helps, because in the previous question you saw it was 50, but the answer was actually 49, because the posts are placed 1 foot inside from the end of the ladder. But in this case, when you have 1 at each end, it's going to go +1, so that's 31. So be careful of this and draw it out so you can easily visualize it. So in this case, we have the length is increased by 50% and the width is decreased by 50%. How does the area of the rectangle change? So you will think it stays the same, but again, be careful, draw it out. So if this is the original length and the original width, right? So the area here is length times width, right? That's the original area. Now the updated rectangle, you have the length is increased by 50%, so it's going to be 1.5 L, right? Because it's the 1 L plus 50%, so 1.5 L. And the width is decreased by 50%, so this is just going to be 0.5 W, right? Because it's half of what it was before. Now the area over here, the new area, is going to be 1.5 times 0.5 LW, right? Now if you multiply this two, it's going to be 0.75 LW. So the area, basically, since it's only 75% of the original area, it decreased by 25%, and that's your answer over here, letter B. So again, the lesson here is to don't be fooled by these same numbers. Actually draw it out, do the equation, and you'll see that, you know, it's not just the same because you increased one by 50 and decreased the other by 50. All right, thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe to my channel. It will really help. Share the channel and the video if you like this content, and like if you like this video, and also comment in the comments of what other types of content and questions you'd like to see. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.